What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Chris Raybon of the Action Network. Today, we've got our NFL player projections for the championship round of the NFL playoffs. So we're going to run through our top players at each skill position, discuss players we're especially high and low on, and of course, we'll throw out some player props as well. Joining me, the top fantasy ranker in the industry, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, what's going on?
What's up? And then there were four. This is, just amazing weekend. It looks like, there was already props when I woke up on Monday. I haven't had a chance to look into them, but hoping, through today I can sharpen my projections based on, what you're saying and then start attacking some of these props.
Yeah, I mean, just don't listen to me about Devin Singletary. Yeah. Oh, my God. Second week in a row. First had the Romeo Dobbs, then Singletary, I think, caught like two passes on the opening drive.
On the opening drive, just a quick. Sometimes
he caught a bomb, like a literal bomb.
Sometimes it's better that way. It's the worst when it's like the last play of the game. Sometimes you prefer a quick, painless death early on. So
yeah. Oh yeah, no, don't. I'm used to betting unders, so it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah, we'll jump into a quarterback here, and obviously. We don't have a top five, but I mean, unless you want to give me whoever your fifth quarterback would be. Oh. But if not, just give me your top four.
Yeah, so Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, and Jared Goff. I can't think of a backup that might get a snap, so I only have four quarterbacks projected right now.
Well, I think it would be probably, all right, who's the most likely to get hurt? Probably Lamar, just because he runs so much. So I guess it would be Huntley, right?
Yeah, or Malik Cunningham package. We've been waiting all year.
He's I think he's going to be a healthy scratch. I think.
Yeah,
I think he was. Yeah, right.
Still holding out. I mean, he shined in the preseason. I was holding out hope to see him in some sort of package on the Patriots or Ravens, but it just never happened. Never happened.
Well, you know what's going to happen. Bill Belichick will go to Atlanta, and then Malik Cunningham could come over there and then be a healthy scratch every. Him and Felipe Franks. Can be healthy scratches there. I got the same order though. So who are you high on? I mean, it's not really hard to be high on, but who do you want to talk about?
I guess let's talk about Lamar Jackson. He's both of our QB1s. He's coming off just a historic game, the first quarterback ever apparently to have 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing, and 100 plus rushing yards and 100 plus QB rating. So he's just playing at a high level right now. It is a tougher matchup against the Chiefs, but he's playing at such a high level. I would say he's matchup proof. And I think this week we can finally say, he should be getting back his top target in Mark Andrews. So that's going to only help him even more. So he's the clear top quarterback this week.
Yeah, I agree. I have him, well above the other three. I think, the only other ones, I mean, we could talk about in terms of being high on. I still have Purdy a little bit ahead of Mahomes. I know Debo is kind of iffy, and Purdy looked kind of iffy last week. Where are you on those two guys? Purdy versus Mahomes.
Yeah, I have Purdy like a full point ahead of him. Okay. And my passing projection for him is a little bit low. I have him 267, which is right about where the market opened up. But he's up to like 277.5 now. And just based on the receiving props, it looks like the market's just assuming that Debo's out, which I think is a little too early to assume that. But Purdy's, passing yard numbers going up because, the Lions are a pass funnel defense. I think they finished the season number 1 in rush defense DVOA. And they've allowed 340 plus passing yards in 5 straight games now. So could be, a Purdy game here. So I get why his prop is that high. I still think it's too high. But either way, he should be ahead of Mahomes just in terms of passing yards, touchdown equity. I think the only way Mahomes maybe, outscores him is, his rushing upside. But other than that, I think Purdy's a clear number 2 QB this week.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little surprised because I am adjusting for Debo. More likely than that, he probably will be out. I mean, it didn't look great yesterday, but who knows? But like you said, this line defense is not good. So, even with no Debo, you still have Kittle, you still have McCaffrey, and of course you still have Brandon Ayuk. So you could still kind of, and you have one of the best schemers in the game, so you should still be able to get it done here. Who are you low on?
Well, I guess it's Jared
Yeah.
Goff because he's ranked dead last in my QB rankings at QB4. But he gets a downgrade this week because he's on the road. The weather does look like it's going to be calm at least, so that could help. But he should also, face a ton of pressure against the Niners. So that's always going to be, a downgrade for Goff anytime he faces a ton of pressure. Tends to struggle. So we could see the Lions offense struggle similar to when they were at Baltimore or at Chicago. It could just be a complete collapse like that. But, it probably will be, a pass-heavy trailing game script. So, he's still in play in DFS. But just out of the 4 quarterbacks, unfortunately, he's the odd man out for me.
Yeah, according to PFF's numbers, the Niners last week against a pretty good Green Bay offensive line, they only blitzed Jordan Love twice on 35 dropbacks, and yet they pressured him 40% of the time. So they didn't even, that's kind of the classic Niner defense that we've known throughout much of their postseason success. Don't have to really send extra rushers to get pressure, and that would, I think, give Goff some issues just because you have one really good receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, but if you're dropping 7 into coverage, it's gonna be other guys are gonna have to step up. It's gonna be a little tougher for him. All right, so I'm same here. Well, on Jared Goff, obviously. All right, let's go. Prop, you're up for quarterbacks. All right. What you got?
Let's go with Lamar Jackson's rushing yards. I'm just gonna set my line and hear your take. But I'm gonna set it at. I realize where the market's at. But I'm going to offer 58.5 rushing yards to you.
Ooh, all right, let me see what the market's at. Just so I don't know what the market's at.
The market's a little bit higher at 63.5 and rising.
I have it right there, like where you said it. 57, 58. I am going to. He does. I did notice, and he's one of those quarterbacks, kind of like Mahomes. His scramble rate does increase a bit in the postseason. I'll take the over. I want to be on the market side. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, no, it's a good line. I think the market's generally a little high on guys like this, but at the same time, I mean, it's Lamar, and that Kansas City defense can cover. They have really good cornerbacks on the outside, so if guys aren't open, Lamar's not going to hesitate to take off. So I'll take the over on that one.
Yeah, that's one I'm showing obviously quite a bit of value on the under.
Right.
That would not be a pleasant viewing experience, fading Lamar Jackson right now with his rushing prop. But I saw an interesting breakdown on his running style has changed this year. He's a little bit more cautious about, taking big hits. Obviously, he's still a dynamic runner, but it doesn't look like he's running quite as hard as years past, so he doesn't have as many explosive runs. But, a game like this, maybe all that goes out of the window.
He's been waiting for this. I mean, getting back to the AFC Championship, I mean, there's some type of intangible that would increase. I don't know exactly how to quantify it, but if the market's already at 63.5, I mean, they know there's people. I mean, they could take a big bet in the under right now, but so they're willing to hang that 63. It says a little something at least.
Oh
especially
with
with
for sure.
Popular prop like that they know. Is
take,
and
I'm thinking for the Super Bowl, it'll be even higher, and even more reason to justify, his prop being high. So this is when I'm kind of ignoring the math, ignoring my model. I'm showing a ton of value on the under, but it's not something I'm going to bet. If anything, the market is probably closer to reality than my projection. So I tried to get you there, but
there's also, so this, because I was kind of looking at this too, and there's different things you can adjust to kind of get it there. Like, for example, you talk about, trying to avoid the big hits. Well, in important games, what you tend to find is they don't try to avoid the big hits as much. So even something as simple as their actual yards per carry can go up because, for example, when a guy might scramble, step out of bounds, now he's going and trying to break that tackle or where he would slide, or even the design runs, because Lamar gets a lot of, he gets design runs. So it's like not just like he's getting quarterback sneaks where it's always going to be, 1 yard median or whatever. So Yeah, that's something I'll look at, individually for quarterback. Now there's only 4, but I do know I did kind of increase him and Mahomes both because I just feel they both are a little more aggressive from the numbers I've seen and found in the playoffs. Their scramble rate goes up, their yard per carry even on design runs goes up, which I think is just because they're not trying to avoid hits.
If anything, he's been saving himself, conceding a few yards here or there for this moment to go off.
And that's why Tyler Huntley should be the QB5.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I'm just saying. I'm just trying
fair
to get
enough. Yeah,
prepared for all the
that is
potential
true.
Range of outcomes, man.
Yep, that is true.
All right, running back top 5. Who you got?
Christian McCaffrey, Isaiah Pacheco, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery, and Gus Edwards.
I got CMC, Pacheco, Gibbs, Montgomery, and my man Justice Hill, who I was talking about him last week. I was like, you never know with this Raven backfield. So he had more snaps. So I'm keeping him at 5. I don't know what to do with Edwards, but we'll talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
But who are you high on?
So I think this is now the 3rd week in a row I'm high on Isaiah Pacheco. Coming off just another solid game on the ground, 15 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Just looks really good running out there. Like every carry is going to be his last. But he does have just 1 catch for the 2nd straight game. Likely due to them just being in positive game scripts and Mahomes probably being more willing to scramble in the playoffs, less willing to check down. But I think we can still expect Pacheco maybe to see 2 to 3 receptions here. It's potentially a trailing game script, so there could be more passing opportunities. More opportunities for Mahomes to dump it off. And while, the Ravens are a tough matchup, they have allowed a 100-plus yard runner in 4 of the last 6 games. Granted, if you look at the running backs that have cleared 100 yards, they've all been elite running backs. But I would consider Pacheco, above average running back. So there's a path for him to still have a good game here. So that's why, despite the tough matchup, I still think we can trust him as, a high end. Like he is my number 2 running back, but I like him. Once again, I'm high on Pacheco this week.
Yeah, I think something too that may go a little bit underlooked or overlooked, is the Chiefs only ran 47 offensive plays in that game against Buffalo. So 15 carries, 97 yards and a touchdown. It sounds, okay, solid, but when you consider that they only ran 47 plays, that 15 for 97 and a touchdown looks a lot better. So because usually you're going to run 60 plus plays. That would equate to 20 carries for 120 yards and more than 1 touchdown of equity. So yeah, like Pacheco as well. Justice Hill for me, just because I think he's that guy, the one guy where there's a lot of uncertainty. He's probably going to be, like you said, that 5th or 6th ranked guy in a lot of almost everybody's rankings and whatnot. But he did lead the Raven backfield with a 57% snap rate. Gus Edwards 34%, Dalvin Cook 13%. And this was a game. It was close for the first half, but still a game where that Baltimore did win by multiple scores. So to see Hill with that kind of usage just kind of reaffirms what we talked about coming into last week, which is this Baltimore backfield is kind of a little unpredictable, and they've shown the willingness to use Hill in important spots. And kind of feature him, and perhaps it is because he's just more of a dual threat back. Gus Edwards, I think he did have 1 big receiving play this year, but generally he's not much of a receiving threat out of the backfield. Hill is kind of a dual threat. I don't think Cook is quite up to snuff in the pass protection yet because he didn't play a pass snap in that last game. All the snaps came on running downs late in the game, so. I think Hill, if he's that one guy that kind of, there's some question about, there's some uncertainty, whereas he might be the RB5 or RB6, but he could also be like the RB2 or something like that if he gets another workload like that. So, and remember, Lions have a committee backfield as well, so you're really just competing with, if you are the top running back for Baltimore, you might just be competing with Pacheco there. So I think Hill is an interesting one to invest in this week. All right, who are you low on?
Yeah, well, I'm with you on Justice Hill. I'm kind of disappointed he's not my RB5 like you, but I should flip that because I'm low on Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
He's only my RB5 because he's living off touchdown equity. But he's a low ceiling, low floor touchdown or bust option right now. And as you mentioned, he's not really involved in the pass game. He did have that, I think it was like a 90-yard catch, which like was more than his season total in 3 of his 4 seasons or something. Like
Exactly.
he's usually not involved in the passing game. So a game like this where it should be closer, it's even possible that the Ravens do end up in a trailing game script. It only bumps up, Justice Hill's upside even more. And, Justice Hill had 3 more rush attempts than Gus Edwards had last game.
Yep.
Plus, Dalvin Cook, he's got a handful of carries in garbage time. He had that one nice run and then kind of, was so after that. But if there's anybody that Dalvin Cook's going to eat into their usage, it would be Gus Edwards. I could see him mixing in on early down. I think Justice Hill has the receiving role locked down. So I think Dalvin Cook is going to factor in more than Melvin Gordon did. So that's just, again, that lowers Gus Edwards' floor even more when it's already kind of shaky. I'm low on Gus Edwards and high on Justice Hill this week.
Yeah, I was kicking myself for not betting the under on Edwards' carry prop. Like I had it way under because I actually, like, just reading the tea leaves heading into last week, like initially I was going to project Cook for, like a half a carry. And I'm like, they sound like they actually might be down to use him. I didn't, and granted they did use him mostly late, but I mean, that was part of the calculation. So it's, I think you have to kind of factor in Dalvin Cook getting a few carries here at some point in the game. And then, like you said, Edwards is more likely to lose early down work because in the passing game, it's already Justice Hill. So another back kind of like that is David Montgomery. I think he's another back that kind of has that concern, 13 touches for 47 yards against the Bucs, but now you're talking about a potentially negative game script against the Niners. And, I know Montgomery did outsnap Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of the pass game last week, but that'll happen a lot when you have these backs that they're going to play on more early downs and things like that, and you're in a decent game script. That can happen, but if you get behind, that can easily flip. So I'm not reading too much into that. I still think Gibbs should project for more usage in the passing game, and the carries are going to be close. Montgomery is going to have a little bit of an edge there, but if he doesn't get a touchdown, I just worry about his receiving upside. I worry about him getting enough carries because I only have him projected about 12 carries or so, and that that there's a lower floor with that too. So he's the other guy, kind of like Gus Edwards, who I'd be a little bit worried about here. Yeah,
and how about the Lions trolling us with Craig Reynolds getting the 1-yard touchdown plunge?
Oh man, I know, right?
Just brutal.
Yeah. And so I mean he's the Dalvin Cook in this situation. So
yeah.
All right, let's see. For the prop, let's go with Gus versus Justice Hill. I'm gonna say let's do their touches. I'll make Justice Hill the favorite, so you get Gus plus a half a touch.
Let's see. So I have.
I would guess you still have Gus for more if you have him as RB5.
10.5 for Gus with low confidence. Yeah. Wait, and you said Justice Hill's minus a half.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll take Gus there. I don't feel great about it, but I can't pass up value when I see it. That's a good one though.
Yeah, no, it's the toughest one because I have it pretty even, I think, but I could go either way. It's really hard. It's hard to distribute the carries now.
Well, you said last week, Dalvin like a half a carry. Where are you at with him now?
Well, I had him more than I was gonna project him for half. I think I had him for like maybe like 2.5 carries. Now I have him. Let's see.
Are you even higher this week?
Probs. Yeah, now I have him for about 4. So.
Oh damn! Okay.
Yeah, because because not only I think that there's a potential of in him playing only in like when they're ahead, but the way they were talking sounds like they might kind of he's just that third running back that they kind of maybe not quite as much as Keaton Mitchell, but definitely in the game plan like to get non-zero snaps. So I have him getting about 20% of the
early down work, right? Yeah, because he didn't run a route. I think he was only in on obvious run situations.
Yeah, and that could change too, but still, I don't think he'd get much passing down work.
Right.
All right, wide receiver, who you got in the top 5?
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, for now, they're saying he's 50-50, so I'm projecting him like he's playing. Rashee Rice and Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I got St. Brown, Ayuk, Rice, Debo 4, but yeah, he'll go down if he's officially out. Zay Flowers, and then let's see, who would my wide receiver 5?
Yeah, who would be the 5 if it's kind of scary.
Reynolds.
Yeah, I'm JMO.
Yeah, well, I mean, same.
Yeah,
same
that Reynolds prop, the Montgomery shot block.
Uh-huh.
They had to call back that 25-yard catch to Reynolds. That was tilting. And Jared Goff was ignoring Reynolds wide open numerous times. And then he finally saw him when he was open in the back of the end zone for that 9-yard score. But Reynolds could have easily had, like 4+ catches for 80+ yards. It was infuriating, like how open he was. And Goff just, he's just looking for his first or second read, and that's it. But he had Reynolds open at times if he wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, that when something like that happens, they usually look at the tape, and then like the next week they'll make it more of a point.
Yeah,
to look at him. So yeah, I think good bounce back spot for him. But who are you high
on? Brandon Ayuk, man, he's my wide receiver too. But I think now's the time to invest in him. He's coming off a down game, 3 catches for 32 yards this season. I don't think he's had like back-to-back bad games, so he's due to bounce back in a big way. And assuming Debo, might be limited, might be ruled out to shoulder injury. So he could be Brock Purdy's clear number 1 target, but it's just a great matchup against pass funnel Lions defense. They've allowed a wide receiver to clear 140 yards in 5 straight games. And if there's anybody that's going to do that, it's Brandon Ayuk. So sign me up for, a Brandon Ayuk ceiling game here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is the Ayuk spot, and if Debo's out, even more so.
Yeah.
For me, Rashee Rice, he had his first down game in a minute, just 4 catches, 47 yards. But as I mentioned, Kansas City ran only 47 plays. They were also, in decent game script most of the game. So this could be one. They are only 3.5-point underdogs at Baltimore, so not major, but could be in a little more of a negative game script. I think that would help Rashee Rice, and they're going to throw more than 25 passes that they threw in that last game, most games. So I don't think you want to get too down on him. Kind of thought maybe it was a time for Kelsey to bounce back. He did that. But I think, this Kansas City offense at this point, going to be very concentrated, Pacheco, Kelsey, and Rashee Rice. So when they run more than 47 plays, as I think they'll do this week, he should bounce back. So like him as a top 3 option. Who are you low on?
I'm low on Odell Beckham. He only caught 1 pass for 12 yards last week. Now just, he has 1 catch in 3 of the last 4 games. And I thought his playing time would go up. I thought they've been kind of like limiting him to unleash him in the playoffs. But for some reason, his route participation fell all the way down to 28% last week.
Yep.
So he's just more likely to have a floor game and limited playing time. Granted, he could still go off for, a few catches, 80 yards and a touchdown in that. So I think he's probably still in play in tournaments, but I was just baffled why his playing time went down. Bateman and Aguilar were operating as the number 2 and 3 receivers. So, so I just think he's more likely to hit his low floor at this point. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Do you have any idea why he was down to 28%?
He's got to be hurt, or he's got to not be completely healthy. Because remember he took the year off, came back. He's still coming off of major injury. He's on the other side of 30, and the year started. The first game that they played, he was in every single pass play, 100, even more than Zay Flowers. Next week went to 64%. He got hurt, came back. It was 66%. And then so for the season, it's kind of been, the average has been 60, but it's been a lot lower than that in some spots. And it's been hard to predict. So it's one of those things where I'm still using, when I'm projecting, I'm still going mostly closer to his season long rate, which is 58%. I'm not going to necessarily weigh that 28 too much for him, because if you look at the 3 Ravens after Zay, so it's Odell, Bateman, and Aguilar, all 3 of them average exactly 58% route participation for the year. So it's in a situation like that, we've talked about this many times, where there's this week-to-week variance that's higher than what you would expect with natural randomness. I am going to kind of just use I'm not going to really like try to catch lightning in a bottle with the last game's projection being weighted way too much more. It'll be weighted a little more, but not not the way I would for some receiver. That's just something I've kind of found doing this like week in, week out. But yeah, it is concerning. It seemed like him and Bateman kind of split that number 2 role, and then because they're Bateman 72%, Odell 28%, that adds up to exactly 100%. And then Aguilar was the number 3. So I mean, if anyone who is from the Baltimore area, beat writer, listening to this with any intel or any just theories, please, you should have tweet us, because this is one that's tough for us. Been kind of tough all year. But at this point, I don't really know what to do but kind of just equal them out for all three of these guys after Zay at this point. And then Duvernay's getting healthier. Oh,
that's right.
So who knows? But I would. And do you have any idea where Beckham was getting those snaps? Was he like mostly like a red zone guy like Hodgins? I haven't rewatched the film yet, so I'm not sure. But
that's a good question. No, I didn't notice anything specific until after the game when I saw his routes run. I thought I saw him out there enough, but I need to go back and see what was going on with that. Maybe they were saving him for the red zone or what was going on. But
saving him for
the Super Bowl.
Yeah. But I agree. I don't know what to do with him. For me, it's Justin Watson. Just simply because it's like kind of mentioned it. I think this Kansas City attack will be concentrated. Watson fell to 44% route participation last week, which is he's been in the 60s for the most part. Now Sky Moore, he could come back this week. Seemed like MVS overtook Watson again as that deep threat. They're kind of splitting the role, period. But Watson's the guy for much of the year. We're like, all right, he's the clear number 2 receiver for KC. And now I think, it's back up in the air again. Hardman's kind of drawing nearly even with Watson as well. So, not a guy I think many people were going to be on anyway. But, I have him a little lower than I've had him the past few weeks. He's kind of trending to more of an even split behind Rice with all those other guys. All right, prop, what you got?
Well, I want to do a fun Odell one. I was going to do routes run rate over under 54.5%, but I just got intel on yours. I have a way more fun one than that. This is, I'm not just going to set a median out there. There's a median prop out there. Go look for yourself. I'm going to set a line where do you think he's going to finish between these 2 yardages?
Ooh, okay.
So I have this being like a coin flip, and he's a guy he's such a wide range of outcomes. I think this is an important prop to consider. So will he finish between 12 and 38 yards? So if he finishes with 12 or 38, that's included in yes. If he gets 11 or 39, that's outside of the bucket, if that makes sense.
So 11.5 to 38.5.
Yeah, essentially. Yep.
Okay. Should see. And you're saying it's 50-50. You have 50.
I have it roughly 50-50. I simulated it. I saw it. And that's what I concluded is 11.5 to 38.5 would be like a 50-50 prop.
I'm going to say, that's good. That's good. So for the season, it's been 60%.
Oh, really?
Between those. Yeah.
Oh.
But and let's see, he's been 1, 2, 3. The last 4 games he's been between those 2. I'm gonna go no, because I do think it's a good. I do think it is about 50-50. He's been the last 4, so this is more of a gut play. At some point, I think he either like he's just hurt and doesn't barely plays, or he pops for a big play, which I think is probably likely here. So I'll go no, but that is a good one.
Yeah, I remember like 20 years ago or whatever when I first started getting into props, they actually had props like this.
They still do.
They need to bring it back.
They still do.
Well, they have the bands, right? But do they have something like this where it's like -110 both ways? I don't think so.
Oh no, they usually it's like you can pick between the 2 ranges at different like at whatever the odds they set for the they'll have 10 to 30 yards, 30 to 50, something like that. But not just like yes or no for a specific
right.
All right, tight end top 5. Who you got?
All right, let me. I could probably just go off the top of my head. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews, and Isaiah Likely, both inside my top 5.
Yeah, that would same here. If Andrews doesn't play, then I'd have Noah Gray is my tight end 5.
Wow.
I mean, there's only 14. But who are you high on?
I'm high on Travis Kelce. We saw him finally break out of his slump last week, which I thought he would. I mean, he was way too cheap in DFS. Had the 5 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's now a 26% target rate in both playoff games now. So Mahomes is clearly leaning on him. There's been a lot of games where Kelce's target rate was below 20%, which was concerning. But I think we're getting the old Kelce back, at least for the playoffs. It's a tougher matchup against the Ravens, but there's really no easy matchup this weekend. So, he's a clear tight end 1, whereas, the past couple weeks it's been shaky. But I think he reclaimed, being the true number 1 overall tight end right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of it was just the drops in that first playoff game. But for me, it's Kittle. I think with Debo potentially out, and talked about this last week, but for whatever reason, Kittle just has really positive splits favoring being at home. And if you look at his numbers this year, he has cleared 67 receiving yards in all but 1 of his home games. And he's only done that in 3 of his road games. So almost all of his good games this year have come at home. All of his touchdowns, except 1, have come at home. So, and he's had 6 of his 7 touchdowns have come at home. And this is a Lions team that, as we talked about, their defense is just not very good. I think this is a good Ayuk spot, but Sam will probably more than likely to be out. So I think Kittle will be that number 2 receiver. Should be in a good spot. 4 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown last week. I think he could do something similar. Maybe even gets more targets than the 7 he had last week if Debo's out.
Yeah.
Who are you on at tight end?
Isaiah Likely. I'm kind of recycling your take from last week where, Mark Andrews is potentially returning this week. So the best backup tight end in the entire league, Isaiah Likely, gets an obvious downgrade. Maybe Andrews won't be able to return to his usual full-time role. So Likely could still see more work than he normally would when Andrews is healthy. So could still end up putting decent numbers here. So he might be like spend up to be contrarian and playing DFS. But either way, would have to imagine Andrews is going to be in on obvious passing situations and or in the red zone, which, are the most valuable snaps to be in. So, Likely gets a big downgrade here. But again, we have to see if Andrews will actually suit up before we can say that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they were on the telecast. They did say essentially it was fact, hey, they're going to get him back for the championship. Okay. So, I mean, I'm guessing they held him out as a precaution. It seemed like, because he was practicing last week. So
yeah, he had a full practice in there too.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it was more
safer than sorry. Again, they have the best backup tight end in the league. That kind of helps.
Exactly. Speaking of backup tight ends, the Lions signed Zach Ertz. We'll see how that goes. But I am a bit low on Sam Laporta. I just think, this is a tough matchup. Anytime, talked about this with San Francisco, you got to worry about Fred Warner and Burks and all those linebackers over the middle. Their safeties are good. It's just a really tough team to put up big numbers for your tight end unless you're they're just in prevent defense. They finished the year number 4 in DVOA against tight ends, according to FTN. So Laporta, I think we both liked him last week, ended up coming through with 9 catches on 11 targets for 65 yards. That may be a little tougher to accomplish this week, I think, especially with San Francisco, able to get pressure, rushing only 4. You're going to have guys in coverage, maybe even, pay a little bit of extra attention to Laporta and just that inside in general with Amon-Ra and Laporta and try to funnel the ball to, J-Mo and Reynolds, which we know Goff is a little more uncomfortable, throwing deep and outside than he is over the middle. So, Laporta a little lower than still he's my tight end 3, but just not expecting necessarily an above expectation type of performance this week for Sam Laporta. All right. Tight end prop. Let's see. Well, let's just go Kelsey, because that's always, everyone's always like, what's Kelsey gonna do? So we'll just go. Let's go 64.5.
Oh, I'll take the under.
All right.
I had it like 60.5. The market's at 62 to 63.5. Remember the first round, it was 55.5. We were like, that seems a bit low. I think he floated 67.5. I think.
Yeah, I floated like the normal, my projection number, and I was surprised it was that low.
And he went way over. It was just weird that the books were. Typically with Kelsey, you want to overinflate it because everybody's going to be on his over, but it's been such a weird season where maybe people were fading him. That turned out not to be smart. So I think the market's probably in line where it should be right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I just say it's probably a couple yards too high, but I do think that's a good number.
He hasn't had fewer than 71 yards in a postseason game since February 2nd of 2020, the Super Bowl against the Niners. So you're
there you go.
Odds are against you, I'll tell you that.
Well, he is getting older. There were some signs of decline. So he's not the same old Kelsey, but again, he's still probably the best tight end in the league still. So yeah, it's hard to fade him. And to be clear, I'm probably not taking his under in his prop market either, but I think given the choice, I would lean under here, barely.
All right, that's going to do it for our Championship Week NFL Player Projections episode here of the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. For more fantasy content from Sean and I, our full fantasy preview episode will be out. It's out right now, on the Fantasy Flex podcast channel. If you're into betting, be sure to check out my weekly betting preview episode with Stuckey every Thursday right here on this channel. And, of course, actionnetwork.com for all of our NFL betting and fantasy content, fantasylabs.com for our DFS tools and models. Don't forget about the Action Network Discord server. You can find Sean on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. And we're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Till next time, let's get this shmoney.